All right, so question 30 here is about control groups. So it says control groups are used in experiments in order to, and then we've got 5 choices. Okay. So let's just kind of talk about the basic design of an experiment. Now the basic design is called a completely randomized design. And it begins with the most important step, random assignment. We use that to form usually 2 groups, although there could be more. Let's just call them group 1 and group 2. Okay. The first group receives some treatment, maybe some experimental drug, for instance. The second group usually is going to receive a placebo. So group 2 is what we would call the control group. Okay. The main purpose here is we need some other set of data to compare the data from group 1 to. Right? Because how would we know if the treatment is effective or not without comparing it to something else? Okay, and so that's the final step of the design, is to kind of compare the results from your 2 groups. Okay. So again, this design that I've drawn here is called the completely randomized design. So let's look at an experiment that doesn't have a control group. So we wouldn't have any random assignment because all the subjects would just be in one group and they would all receive the treatment, and then we would just look at their results. So the problem with this design is that if we see some sort of positive response to the treatment, we don't really know why the response was positive. Maybe the treatment caused the positive response, but it could have also been a number of other factors too, including the placebo effect, which is just this idea that some subjects will show a positive reaction to any treatment, even a sugar pill, for instance. So when we have what's called a one-track design here, right, the results are not really reliable because we don't know what really caused the results, right? It could be a number of factors, including the placebo effect. So when we have a control group, right, we're able to kind of measure the placebo effect, right? The results from group 2 will show us how strong the placebo effect is, and then the results of group 1 will show us how strong the effect of the treatment is. Okay, and if they're similar, then we can conclude that the treatment is not effective. But if the results from group 1 are much better than the results from group 2, then we've got evidence that the treatment is effective. Okay. So the answer here to question 30 is that control groups allow us to control or measure the placebo effect. Okay. Now let's take a look at the other 4 choices. So B says, group the subjects according to characteristics which are known to influence the response variable so as to control their effects. So this is describing blocking, right? So when we do a block design, instead of just randomly assigning subjects to groups, we kind of separate them first by some lurking variable or blocking variable, like maybe gender, for instance. We separate the men and women and then carry out the random assignment. Choice C talks about non-response bias. This is not an issue related to experiments. This is an issue related to sampling and surveys. The same can be said for choice D. Eliminate voluntary response bias. This is an issue that doesn't affect experiments. It more so affects samples and surveys. And then E is about double blinding. So this is the idea that our subjects are not aware of which treatment they're receiving, and the people who record the data are not aware either. Okay, so that's an entirely different concept or topic, not really having to do with control groups.